friends, and welcome to the Pages and Pearls YouTube channel. My name is Hannah. If you're new here, I make videos about my knitting, mostly classic podcast episode about what I've been knitting on, what I'm currently knitting on, and I also occasionally talk about other things like writing because I write books. So today I have a very normal classic podcast episode for you. It's been a while since I made one of those, I think 2-3 months now, and I have a few things to update you on, so let's get started. Alright, we're gonna start first with actually what I am wearing, which is my first finished object that I wanted to show you. This is the Petal Drop Camisole by Florence Miller, who is also handmade by Florence here on YouTube and on Instagram. And this was basically my summer knit. That's all I knit on this summer. I didn't have lots of knitting motivation for some time, and yeah, that's why it took me a bit longer, but this object was very, very fun to knit on. It's a lace camisole. I'm gonna put in some footage of me standing up wearing it here because I basically injured my knee quite badly a few weeks ago, so I have difficulties standing up once I'm sitting down, so I can't really show you anything like the hem or whatever, but I will put in some footage so you can see it. So basically this is a lace camisole that is knit on 3mm needles. It's a tiny needle project. It's an all-over lace pattern. You start from the bottom up, and the lace pattern is really cool. It's this very, very pretty, Florence calls it petal drop, and it looks way more involved or way more complicated than it actually is to knit it. There is a sock pattern with this lace motif as well that I knit last winter, which actually brought me out of my sock knitting lack of motivation, so it brought back my sock knitting mojo, and I find this pattern a really, really cool mix between easy to memorize yet not pure stockinette, so a bit more engaging if you're a bit more bored by stockinette sometimes, which for me occasionally happens. So that's the petal drop pattern. As I said, you knit it from the bottom up, and then at some point you split for the front and the back, and also for these straps that you continue in the motif, which I find really cool, that you have this neat kind of transition from the front of the top into the strap, and you continue the pattern there. And then the finishing is basically just I-cord around the armholes and around the neckline. There is no finishing at the bottom because you cast on and you go right into the lace pattern, so it doesn't really seem like you would need it. It also doesn't look unfinished or anything. I think because this is quite like a top with negative ease, it just shapes to your body and that's it. So I feel like in that case, it's usually not often as necessary to have kind of a rib hem, and also it would look maybe a bit weird with this lace pattern. Funny enough, while I was doing the I-cord, one of my needles actually broke. I think it's the first time that I had the needle like split at the tip. So when picking up stitches, it just split at some point. I don't know if that's because I've been using it for a while or whatever, but basically I had to kind of force myself to stop there and wait until my replacement needle arrived to then continue with the rest of the I-cord. It did take me quite some time, obviously, because you have many stitches around here, and then you have to pick all of these stitches up. But I always like knitting I-cord, applied I-cord, so that wasn't a problem. The yarn that I used is a yarn that was new to me, so I'm just looking at my notes here. As always, I will also put the notes below and link to my Ravelry project so that you can find most of the information that I'm giving you now kind of condensed, written down over there. But basically the yarn that I knit with is Gepard Wild and Soft, which is a light fingering weight yarn with 60% merino and 40% silk, Tussar silk, I think. And it creates this very luxurious fabric that is still a bit, has kind of the memory of wool, but seems airier than than just merino, and also a little bit softer and smoother. I really enjoyed knitting with this, and also I enjoy wearing it on my skin. I do have to say that I haven't worn this camisole out and about yet, but I've been wearing it around the house to kind of, obviously to try it on after blocking to see how it fits, and it is very nice. It feels very nice on the skin. In terms of pattern, in terms of modifications, I did go up one needle size, so instead of knitting it on 3mm needles, I knitted on 3.25mm needles. That was just because my 3mm needles are metal, and I feel like with silk, if there's a high silk content, I prefer to knit on wooden, or I have these like Lica driftwood needles, and I prefer to knit on those because otherwise with the metal it feels a bit too slippery for my liking. So that's why I went up this tiny bit of a needle size. And the other thing that I didn't do in the pattern, you also have instructions for waist increases, because you start from the bottom up, so kind of to shape it a bit more even to the dip of the waist. And then I didn't do that because I didn't want to think about any of this. I was anyways coming out of a knitting slump, so I just wanted to cast on my lace pattern and get going. And anyways, with this fabric, I also thought because of the lace, it might be a little bit drapier anyways, so having a lot of shaping in there, in my mind, that made sense, that to omit the shaping because I have the drape and then it would fall differently anyways. And I'm really happy with the fit. So it fits really nicely. It's not too cropped, not too long either. I did want to make it fit with all of my bottoms, which most of them are high-waisted linen shorts, skirts, and so on. And for that, it works perfectly. And yeah, you don't have, it's not, maybe I would say it's not super bra friendly, but I just wear a strapless bra, and then that kind of solves the problem for me. Yeah, and I love the color. I absolutely love the color. Basically, I was kind of loosely planning on making this top, but then I went to one of my local yarn shops and I saw this really amazing, rich kind of raspberry, pink, reddish color that just screamed summer and berries and just summer vibes to me. And when I saw it, I was like, okay, now I know what I want to make my Petal Drop Camisole in. So yeah, the picking up the yarn really inspired me to cast this on right away. And I'm very happy with how this color turned out because it, as I said, it just it's a really nice, rich summer color, and I really like the look of it, and I really like to combine it with more neutral, like dark blue, black bottoms, and so on. Yeah, so that is my Petal Drop Camisole. I really have to say I love this lace pattern, and it looks so kind of like dainty and nice, and just a more, in the end, most of the time it feels like knitting rib, but it's not, so that's really cool. And yeah, overall very happy with this finished object, and also happy though to be moving on a little bit from this kind of tiny needle size where progress is very, very slow. So for the next two things that I finished, one I already talked about a bit more in my previous podcast episode because I was working on it then, but also in my most recent video, which is a kind of roundup of these tiny scarves, and this being one of them, I wore it there. We have a bit of a funny changing light situation today. I hope that's okay. I can't really film in another place because here I can't sit comfortably with my injured knee. Anyway, so this pattern is an Italian summer scarf. It's a free pattern on Ravelry by Francesca, who is an Italian knitter here on YouTube, and she has several free seasonal scarf and cowl patterns, and this is the first one of those that I knit, and also the first one she came out with. It's a triangular shaped scarf that has garter stitch and eyelets. Got a bit closer so you can see it maybe. And it's a very fun and engaging but not too complicated knit. I really enjoyed it. I have made a few small scarves before. I found this to some extent similar to the Sophie scarf, although obviously it looks quite different with the eyelets, but I found this one more fun because with the eyelets it actually is way easier to count your rows and trace back where you increased and decreased. So I feel like I would rather knit this one again maybe than a Sophie scarf, just because of that, and also because I like how the eyelets kind of break up the stockinette, the garter stitch pattern. I knit this in Knitting for Olive compatible cashmere in the color Dusty Artichoke, which is, I feel like, a very popular color, and I totally understand why. I just really like this dusty, sagey green. I also really like the compatible cashmere. I've been wanting to try it out, but obviously it's a bit more on the pricier side, so maybe trying it out for a bigger garment, yeah, that felt like a bit too much of a commitment for me without actually knowing the yarn. So it was great to try out this new to me yarn in a comparatively smaller project. I used 2 balls of this, and the great thing about this pattern is obviously that if you weigh your yarn before, you can really track how much you're using, and then when you're a little bit under halfway through your quantity of yarn, you can basically just turn and start decreasing again, and this way you can use up a lot of your yarn. And I basically used up almost all of my 2 balls. I've been wearing this tons actually. I knit this within a very short time at the end of May, and we had a quite cold, I would say, end of May, most of June here in the UK, where sometimes it felt like it was almost winter basically. So having something that I could wrap around my neck that would keep me warm without being bulky or any of my winter scarves was kind of nice. So this felt like, yeah, a nice kind of compromise to snuggle up and be warm without feeling like it's actually winter when it's supposed to be summer. And yeah, I've been wearing this a lot. I really like also just keeping it in my bag in case there's a sudden change of weather, which also happens quite often here in the UK. And I would 100% recommend this pattern. I'm also really curious to try out Francesca's other patterns, or maybe make more of these as Christmas, birthday gifts. I don't know. I think that's quite a cute idea. And overall, I was really happy with this project. And I think that's all that I have to say about it, actually. Yeah. That's my Italian summer scarf. I can just maybe pop it on as well, just to put on all the knits. Maybe the colors, well, they're not too bad together, but yeah. Anyways, the last thing that I also finished was one that I actually haven't shown yet, I think, because in the last episode I had started it but wasn't really actively knitting on it, so I didn't want to pull it out. I am talking about an Oslo hat. I'm too far away from the screen to really see how the color looks like, if it's true to what it is in real life, but basically it's this dark green. The color is called Slate Green. It's a Knitting for Olive Merino colorway that to me felt a little bit different from the other Knitting for Olive Merino that I've knit with so far in 2 ways. One is that I find that it has a little bit more variation in the color. Maybe if I turn it around in the light, you will see it a bit more. I don't know, or I'll put in a close-up later. Basically, you have this kind of like dark, grayish, brownish, murky green as the color, but you have sections of it that are lighter, that kind of like yellowish, grassier in the yarn. And also the feel of it when I was knitting with it, it felt a bit rougher somehow than the other merino that I've knit with so far. Not in an unpleasant way, but just in a way that I noticed that the texture was a tiny bit different. Blocked, I don't notice the difference so much anymore. It just feels as any other merino that I've knit with from Knitting for Olive feels like. But basically this is the Oslo Hat. It's the second time that I knit this pattern. It's a pattern by Petite knit, and it's this hat pattern where you have kind of a double folded rim that you then also kind of knit together, and then you fold that up so you have basically 3 layers over your ears. I made one at the end of last summer for myself, and it was basically the hat that I was wearing all winter because it's so comfy and nicely warming and just overall great. And the pattern is a lot of fun to knit as well. For me, it's really, I feel like a comfort pattern because it's just stockinette all the way, and I know it makes for a great hat. And yeah, So I made this one for a friend. This is the size large. I don't know yet if it fits him because I'm going to see him later and then I will gift it to him. And then I can report back if it fit him well. The size large took me about, I think, 120 grams of yarn. So it's not a pattern, in my experience, that you can get away with one skein of 100 grams of yarn. I used the fingering weight, but held it double on 3.5 millimeter needles and just really enjoyed it. Not much else to say about this. I think I will make more Oslo hats as well in my future because I just really like how the pattern is and also how it then looks like when worn. But yeah, I'm not going to put on the hat now because for that it's too warm. We're having a slightly warmer summer day today, so wearing a triple brim hat is maybe not the best thing to do right now. But those are all of my finished objects. I do like the color scheme going on here. Yeah, very happy with those. And now let's move into works in progress. So basically I was telling you that I had very low knitting motivation this summer. I was talking about it in my last episode a few months ago already, that I've been quite busy with my writing and that sometimes not a lot of time is left over for other activities that I like to do outside of work. This summer I did actually have a little bit more time for that, but just for some reason I wasn't feeling it. But I can proudly report that this has changed now because when I injured my leg, I had to sit in the same spot for about 2 weeks. Now I can move around a tiny bit more, but not much more, so I'm still very much sitting down in one place, seated pastimes, kind of no being out and about and discovering the city or meeting up with friends. So I feel like knitting is kind of the best thing to do in that state, and it kind of keeps you busy and so on. So it has come back, my motivation. And first I finished the top and the Oslo hat, but there was not so much left for me to do anymore. So basically I cast on a sweater I've been wanting to make for a while and that I've had the yarn and stash for over a year, I would say. I will show you the sweater in a second. It's this beautiful, beautiful sweater. This is my dad's sweater or dad's sweater by Emily Curtis, who is Gently Chaotic Knits here on YouTube. It's also a pattern I've been wanting to make for ages. Basically, I bought this yarn, knew I wanted to make this dad's sweater with it, but then didn't really have, I don't know, I didn't cast it on, but now I did. And I'm very happy about it because this thing is flying off my needles. I cast it on last week, Monday, I think, or Sunday, and today is Wednesday. So it's been about 10 days since I've been working on it. And for having taken ages to knit anything in this year in general, I'm very, very proud of this progress and how much fun I've been having while making this. So the dad sweater is a kind of drop shoulder construction, but you have these kind of mock set-in sleeves, so it's not a classic drop shoulder, I would say. And you basically knit front and back separately for a while, then you, for the yoke, and then you join at the underarms, knit the body, pick up for the sleeves, and so on. And I have made some progress already. I'm not fully through the body. I basically just knit on the body until my ball of yarn ended, and then I got started on the collar and on the first sleeve, just so that I can then decide on the body length with everything else already done, and to get a bit more variation in the steps of my knitting. As I said, I'm making good progress with it. It's such a joy. I think it's both the pattern being a good variation of engaging and a few new things that I haven't tried out yet, like these set-in sleeves, while also just having tons of stockinette to kind of get into the zone. And the yarn is also a big contributor to this. So the yarn, as you can see, it's a cream yarn with kind of rainbow, all sorts of color tweed. I love a good rainbow colored tweed that is not just browns, creams, neutrals, kind of leftover, but an actual colorful tweed. And this one is so amazing. I really like it. You have these kind of really sunny yellows, really saturated colors, pinks, purples, bright blues, and darker blues as well. And I always love just to see which new sections are coming up with the yarn that I'm knitting. The yarn is Hikoo Sueno Tweed. It's a DK weight yarn. I have it in ball form also here. It's a DK weight yarn which has a high percentage of superwash merino. I think it's 60 something percent of superwash merino, and then the remainder are these neps kind of that make the tweed, and the other part is just viscose from bamboo. So it's a kind of plant plus merino blend. And it's quite interesting because the viscose gives it a slightly drier feel. Not fully dry like a complete like plant-based yarn, but it makes it a little bit drier and grippier in a way. Well, actually not grippy, actually smoother. I don't know how to say it, but like drier, and it slides off the needles in a really pleasant way, if that makes any sense. So that also contributes to me going through it pretty fast. It feels quite lightweight actually so far. The yarn itself is quite, has a quite light quality to it, I would say. And yeah, I'm holding it single. I'm not sure. I will see how well it holds up being superwash for not having any kind of more structurally strong yarn to keep it in place. Let's see. I'm knitting this one in the 3rd size, which is, I think, a little bit below the positive ease that is suggested in the pattern. So I think the pattern suggests more around 15 to 20 centimeters, and this one gives me more like 10, a bit above 10 centimeters, so 4 inches of positive ease. The reason for this is that I think the yarn quantity that is suggested for me would probably not be enough for the next size up. It might be if I make it more cropped, but it would be, a matter of playing yarn chicken the entire time, and I didn't feel like that. Plus, I'm also, I don't know yet where I stand on the whole, like how much positive ease I like for myself. I think it depends a bit on the pattern and what I feel like. I do have some sweaters that have more on the 20 centimeters, so 8 inches I would say of positive ease, but I also have more tighter fitting ones, and I do kind of like both. And with this one, I wanted it to be like a sweatshirty feel because that's also what the pattern is inspired by, and I don't love my sweatshirts to be extremely bulky and large, so that's why I also wanted to go for a little bit less positive ease, but we'll see how it looks like and how it will work out. But yeah, basically for this I have 500 grams of the DK weight yarn, and I think it should be enough with the size that I chose. And that's it for my dad's sweater. Hopefully in the next episode I will have this one already ready. I think with this fabric it also feels like a good transition piece from summer into autumn because it's not too woolly and not too thick and warm, but also already kind of like a full like sleeved garment sweater, not a camisole, not a full-on summer yarn. So it feels good for like a transition season, and also the colors kind of match. To me, tweed is always a bit like, I don't know, like back to school, but then this one seems fresher because it's colorful tweed and not the kind of like elbow patched mustard yellow tweed. Does that make sense? I'm not sure. Anyways, this is what I'm currently working on. Speaking of tweed with multicolored neps, I have another project that fits into that category. And that is a sock project, which this is the 2nd sock, so this is what I'm currently working on. I'm very much at the beginning, just finished the cuff and starting with the leg of the sock. But I have a first one done already that I knit at the beginning of the year that I can show you. And this is the one that I've already done. It's unblocked, so it's a bit awkward to show, but I'm gonna do the full-on like blocked sock reveal when I'm actually done with the pair. It basically has this kind of lace motif at the front of the leg, and then you have these two sections of the pattern, I don't know how I can show you this, maybe like this, that continue carrying on over the foot, but the central motif is then gone, and then you just have stockinette on the foot. It's a classic kind of heel flap and gusset construction, which is my favorite sock construction, and I knit this in this beautiful dusty pink yarn with colorful tweed. Not sure if you can see it super well. Basically, you have like dark green, like all primary colors, or mostly primary colors. It feels like a green, yellow, red, speckled tweed in here. And yeah, as I said, I knit this one already at the beginning of the year in January. I really enjoyed knitting this sock, and now I just wanted to give it its partner so that in autumn, hopefully, I can wear the pair. And it just fit really well. I wanted to cast on another sock again, and then I thought, why not do the second in a pair? And now it's been long enough since I knit the first sock that it's actually kind of interesting and engaging again. It doesn't feel boring to knit the second in the pair. And the pattern that I'm using is from this book, The 52 Weeks of Socks, Volume 1. And the pattern is called, I think it's called Snippet. Yep, it's Snippet by Helen, Steward. This is the page. And I haven't knit so many socks from this book yet. Actually, this is the first pair that I'm really knitting. But I do like knitting from like a printed out, published book pattern. So I really felt like doing that. Obviously, it's not always great if you're using it for an on-the-go pattern, because then in the end you just kind of have to take a screen, like a photo, or copy out the pattern. But since I'm mostly at home at the moment anyways, because of my leg, I thought it was a good moment to cast this one on and do the second sock. So yeah, that's Snippet. Still have some ways to go, but I'm looking forward to it. The last thing that I wanted to show you still is new acquisitions, which I don't have many of. It's basically just 1/2 of a sweater quantity of yarn. So I bought end of last summer, just before leaving New York and moving to the UK, I bought these 2 Merino singles by Hikoo, and this is the Everything Everywhere All at Once colorway that I really liked. Hikoo is a New York-based dyer that I also met at some point in one of my local yarn shops there, and I really wanted to have a memory of these great colorways. So I bought these 2, knowing that I wanted to make a lento sweater with them, but I never bought the suri to go with it to have the full quantity, full yarn combination that you need. So now I actually did feel like casting this on very soon, and I already knew that I wanted this suri. So this is the Fyberspates Cumulus. It's an alpaca silk blend, and this is the colorway Pearl 914. They have several kind of neutral colorways, which online are a little bit difficult to discern how they actually differ, but Chelsea, True Lane Knits, was very helpful because she had seen the different yarns in store already and helped me pick out the more pinkish undertone leaning one rather than the more beige-ish or grayish light color. So this one I thought would go pretty well together with all the different colors in the single, the merino yarn that I got. So I got just a quantity of that to make the lento sweater, and I'm thinking it might be the one that I cast on whenever I'm done with my dad's sweater. Not entirely sure yet though, because it feels kind of similar to have the tweed and then these kind of light base color with some colorful sections. I'm not sure, but I am extremely curious to knit with a suri because I actually never used a suri before. I've only ever knit with mohair, not suri, so I am really looking forward to use this yarn. So it might be a lento sweater. I also feel like another sweater that is kind of like an easy raglan construction, straightforward stockinette might be good for me to work on next. And that's all my acquisitions. I am currently eyeing a few more things. I have a few things in my stash that I definitely want to knit this autumn and winter, but I also am eyeing some cardigans and other garments that I would want to buy some yarn for that is maybe more autumn coated in terms of like rust oranges or so. But I'm thinking to maybe make another video about my fall plans if I feel like it, and I will talk about it there. And then in terms of, usually at the end I do a little kind of recommendation roundup section. I don't have so many things to talk about at the moment. I'm a bit annoyed and impatient with my leg. It feels very annoying to be kind of bound to the house in the last weeks of summer, when our summer here has felt rather short anyways. But yeah, that's just how it goes. I have to be patient until I recover. One thing that I have really enjoyed is me and my partner started watching the TV show Interview with a Vampire very recently. Here in the UK, it's on the BBC. There are 2 seasons out so far, and I watched the movie Interview with a Vampire ages ago. Don't fully remember it, but I am really, really enjoying the show. It feels like a very kind of cozy, not super creepy, but still kind of fantastical, mysterious show. I really like the actors in it. I like the way that the whole story is told. And having something vampire related just fits into the turn of the seasons. And I'm really enjoying it. So if you have watched it, I would be curious actually to hear your thoughts, or if you have any similar recommendations, any other TV show recommendations. Now that over the summer I was watching tons of football, soccer for my American friends, and the Olympics. I don't know, I just like watching sports sometimes. But after that is over now, I'm more moving into TV shows obviously again. And then in terms of other things to talk about, there are some changes ahead coming. We're moving house in, I think, about 6 weeks or something. So that'll be another fun challenge to pack up all our things again. Although, obviously this time, unlike a year ago, it's not a transatlantic move, but it's just within the city to a different place. And then maybe I can also, in the next episode or something, share some of the other things that have kind of changed in the past month, or upcoming changes that, yeah, I can talk about that at a different point in time. For now, I'm just really, really excited to be back in this space, think a bit more about my hand knits, work a bit more with my hands again, and kind of trying to, or seeing my knitting motivation come back alive. It feels very, very fitting. I feel like also autumn is maybe a knitter's favorite season, because with the change in season, kind of all of this motivation comes back up. The colors that we see around ourselves are just beautiful and really rich and saturated, and that's always very inspiring. So I'm very excited for that season ahead as well. And I hope to be talking to you more in the next few weeks. Just as always, I'm very curious to hear what you've been working on, what you are working on, if you have any exciting plans for future projects, and I will talk to you more in the comments. If you like this kind of content and if you want to be updated as it comes out, feel free to subscribe, give the video a like, that always helps. And other than that, I have nothing else to say. I will see you soon, hopefully again in a new episode or a fall plans video, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll speak to you next time. Bye bye.